Danielle Carter had never been the type of person who looked away when others were in need. Living in a modest house on the edge of Atlanta, she had built her life quietly after years of working as a school counselor. She had seen too many children fall through the cracks of the system, too many labeled problem kids before anyone bothered to understand what they had been through. One evening, as rain tapped softly against her window, she received a call that would change her life. 3 boys, siblings, had just been removed from yet another foster placement. The system described them as difficult, unstable, and unwanted, and no temporary home had agreed to take them in. The oldest, Marcus, had already learned how to hide his emotions behind silence. The middle boy, Andre, carried anger like a shield, always ready to argue or push people away before they could abandon him first. The youngest, Elijah, barely spoke at all, except to ask where they would go next. Something inside Danielle tightened as she listened. Without overthinking the consequences, she said yes. She drove to the agency that same night, her headlights cutting through the heavy rain, and brought them home. The boys stepped into her house cautiously, like they expected it to disappear or for someone to send them away again. They kept their distance, sitting together on the couch without speaking, refusing the food she offered at first. Marcus watched every movement she made, calculating whether she could be trusted. Andre tested her patience almost immediately, questioning her rules and her intentions. Elijah simply stared at the floor, holding onto his backpack as if it was the only thing he truly owned in the world. Neighbors noticed the new arrivals quickly, and whispers began spreading through the community. Some said Danielle was naive. Others said she was inviting trouble into her home, and a few even predicted the boys would run away or cause problems within days. But Danielle did not react to the gossip. Instead, she focused on structure and kindness, setting simple rules while giving them space to breathe. She made sure they ate together every evening, even when silence filled the room. Slowly, she began learning their patterns, their fears, and the invisible wounds they carried. She did not try to force them to change overnight. Instead, she stayed consistent, showing up every day in ways that told them they were not temporary guests, but people who mattered. Months passed in Danielle Carter's home, and what once felt tense and unfamiliar slowly began to shift into something steadier. The boys still carried their past with them, but the edges of their behavior started to soften, in small, almost unnoticeable ways. Marcus, the oldest, who once answered every question with silence or suspicion, began staying up late at the kitchen table, quietly working on school assignments Danielle placed in front of him. At first he did it only because she insisted, but over time he started asking questions on his own, especially about math and science. Andre, who used anger like armor, still argued when he felt cornered, yet those outbursts became less frequent. He discovered an old sketchbook Danielle had kept in a drawer and began drawing again, something he had not done since his early childhood. The lines on paper became his way of releasing emotions he could not express in words. Elijah remained the quietest, but Danielle noticed he no longer clutched his backpack tightly when sitting at the dinner table. Instead, he began helping set it, carefully placing plates and utensils as if he wanted to contribute in some small way. Danielle never rushed their progress. She treated every improvement, no matter how small, like a victory worth acknowledging. She made sure the house stayed consistent, predictable, and safe, because she understood that stability was something they had never truly experienced before. She also became their advocate outside the home, speaking with teachers, counselors, and social workers to ensure the boys were not written off because of their past records. Slowly, school became less of a battleground and more of a place where they could rebuild their identities. There were still difficult days. Marcus sometimes shut down completely when reminded of his past placements. Andre occasionally lashed out when he felt misunderstood. Elijah still struggled with nightmares and fear of being left again. But each time, Danielle remained steady, refusing to give up on them even when progress seemed slow or uneven. By the end of that period, something had fundamentally changed inside the house. It was no longer just a shelter. It had become a home. The boys, once labeled unwanted, began to see themselves differently, not because the world changed overnight, but because one person refused to treat them as anything less than capable of becoming more.